My next guest is one of the co-founders of the Pediatric AIDS Foundation. Please welcome Elizabeth Glaser. Folks, Elizabeth. Let's cut to the chase. What is behind our government's reluctance to get out? I mean, why aren't we out of outer space and curing AIDS on this planet? What's the...
There's no good reason, that's for sure. It's a mistake. Our government's confused about its priorities, and human life is not necessarily, up at the top of the list. So I struggle in Washington to help them understand that this is something that affects all of us and that we've got to pay attention now to the issue. But we find money for wars and bombs and things like that, and when it comes to food and education and issues that are more relevant to, I think, many of our lives, it's much more complicated.
And I know Bush is deficient in this area, but when I look at George Bush, I sense a good man. I don't sense an ogre. I cannot believe, what is the mental block there that he just doesn't get this? Have you met with him? I know you met with Quayle. That's an amazing...
I never met Dan Quayle. I did meet President Reagan.
Oh, you met Reagan.
Yeah. Quayle wanted to...
Yeah, you got to tell the Quayle story.
Well, it's very frustrating. This is about my life and my family's life and about the lives of millions of other people, and so I have a personal stake in what happens. But you go to Washington and you try to change things, and you have some interesting experiences. And the last two administrations have just been horrible. They haven't, done what they need to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Start doing it.
Get out and vote. We need a change. That's. Very interesting what they do. I got a call from Dan Quayle's office saying he was coming to LA and they were going to make some announcement about some kind of drug, and would I come to the press conference? And I said, well, I don't think so. And they said, well, why not? And I said, well, his administration's not doing what needs to be done on AIDS. And he said, well, we'd like to have some kids out there who are infected. And I said, don't you understand they're all hiding because you guys aren't doing the job that you need to do? So I said, I'm sorry, if you can come up with more money and he wants to help, I'll be happy to go have my picture taken with him. But otherwise, forget it.
It's just a photo op. It's like it's like fat guys posing with marlins in the Florida Keys. They just want to be seen. They just want to be seen with one of these kids. So it just grins me out.
You got to maintain your integrity and fight for what you want, and not be afraid to say when people aren't doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, coming in and out of the bumpers, we've been showing these
cards.
The Christmas cards. I get so choked up. These cards are done by kids who have had it, and I know your one child died. And what's the number that they can call to get these?
Just at Christmas time, or for birthdays or anniversaries or any special occasion, if instead of going out and spending $10 on a gift, you can call the foundation and you can order a set of cards that says a donation has been made in your name, and it's kind of a gift. And the covers of the cards are actually, this is the foundation's logo, and my daughter Ariel, who died 3.5 years ago, did this picture. And we have other pictures on the cards. And actually, Brett Likens is, fighting for his life and still alive. And there's hope. I don't want it to be, my life is serious and complicated, but I'm filled with hope. But we need everyone to motivate and rally, and the government to do the right thing. You can't win a war by yourself. You got to win a war with a whole army of people helping you. And we all play a part in that.
Well, there have been some... You have found some champions in this cause, and to me, from watching the Hill Thomas hearings, obviously you found one that I wouldn't have suspected, Senator Metzenbaum, who came off as a bit Paleolithic during those hearings, but actually turned out to be a pretty good guy, didn't he?
Everyone in those hearings, I think, didn't do the job they needed to do. I think we have to have women in Washington, and, that's really important.
Well, you guys got the 52%.
Right, you can do it.
I don't understand what's happening. Well, I'd love to see women take it. And I'm not doing that yank, gang, Alan Alda stuff, but you got 52%. Take over for a while. We're blowing it. So you guys do it. No, I don't want all that. But Metzenbaum turned out
I went to Washington, and I started meeting senators and congressmen. I met the president, Reagan, when he was in office, and you're nervous in the beginning, you know, and you don't exactly know what to do. And I sat down with Senator Howard Metzenbaum, who's from Ohio, and we were talking the first time, and all of a sudden, he started to cry. And, you know, I had to tell him my life, but you hope that you move people, but you don't always necessarily touch their hearts. Yes. And so he said, you know, I'll do anything I absolutely can. And he sits on committees that deals with the Food and Drug Administration, which has a lot to do with AIDS, drugs, and all sorts of important things. And so he was incredibly helpful in helping children have access to drugs as well as adults. And so there are horrible stories from Washington, and equally there are some wonderful stories from Washington.
Good for you, Metzenbaum. Good for you. Now, George, we're not putting you down, but you got to get off your duff and do something, man. Now, what message would you give to if you had and I want you to know that I don't want to dog and pony you on this show. This show should be a shipping house for information for you. You ever want to come on here, just come on. I'm not doing it to be a good guy. I'm doing it because I'm a human being, and, you know, we owe this to everybody. But what do the people, what do they need to know? What's the basic message here? The education thing's fine, but everybody kind of knows about it now. But what do we do now?
I think that, from my point of view, the message is the days of the 60s and the sexual revolution are over. Sex is potentially dangerous, unprotected sex, and that we all have to think very seriously about the choices that we make. I don't tell anyone what to do, but pay attention. Think about it. If you're going to have sex with people, many people, more than one person, make sure you use a condom, because this is a preventable disease. We're talking life and death here. I think the second message is, if you don't like the way things are going, get out and vote. No matter how rich we are, how poor we are, what our color is, we each have one vote. I know it feels sometimes like things won't change, but we know what we've got. So if we don't like what we've got, give something else a chance. Right. I don't care, you know,
the phone number, before you applaud, the phone number, more importantly, is 1-800-488-5000. We got to go. Elizabeth, thank you. We'll be right back, folks.